If you're a pop culture junkie who loves TV, film, music, comedy, and other really important stuff, then you've come to the right place. Get ready and settle in for Classic Conversations, the best pop culture interviews in the world. That's right, we circled the globe so you don't have to. If you're ready to be the king of the water cooler, then you're ready for Classic Conversations with your host, Jeff Dwoskin.
All right, Penny, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. You get the show going each and every week, and this week was no exception. Welcome, everybody, to episode 144 of Classic Conversations, where the conversations aren't just conversations, they're classic. You're welcome. All right, as always, I am your host, Jeff Dwoskin. Great to have you back. This episode, we're heading to the stars. My special guest this week, Peter Macon, actor, Emmy Award winner, and star of one of my favorite shows, The Orville. Peter Macon is, of course, Lieutenant Commander Bortus.
You will be silent.
You're in for a treat. My conversation with Peter is awesome. We talk about The Orville, his love of the stage, winning an Emmy, and the art of smuggling food in your own concessions into the movie theater. We cover it all. You're going to love it. And that's coming up in just a few minutes. Hopefully you caught, or if you didn't catch it, you'll head over there right after you're done here to my interview with Stuart Pankin. That's right, Stuart Pankin. You loved him as Bob Charles, and not necessarily the news. You loved him as Earl Sinclair, the father in Dinosaurs. So many great stories Stuart shared with me, including his work on Curb Your Enthusiasm, working with Mel Brooks. So much all packed into one episode. So check that out. That's episode 142. Episode 143, of course, was a bonus episode featuring live segments from our live show, Crossing the Streams. If you're looking for TV binge-worthy shows, check out the bonus episodes or all the full episodes on our YouTube channel. Great stuff. A lot of people ask, hey, how can I help out the show, Jeff? What can I do to make a difference? And the answer really is follow and download the episodes. Follow me on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and, download weekly, keep up, chat with me on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Love hearing from you. So, that's it. That's simple. It doesn't cost a penny. And, and tell a friend. Tell all your friends. Every single one of your friends. Think of a number between 1 and 1,000. Tell that many friends. That's all. That's it. Easy stuff. Thank you very much. I do want to take a quick second to tell you all about my friend Scott Curtis's podcast. It's called Behind the Bits. It's a podcast about the tragedy and triumph of stand-up comedy. It's a really amazing podcast. Scott has an amazing interview style. He actually won Best Interview Style Podcast in the 2020 Discover Pods Awards. He beat a relatively unknown Dax Shepard from Armchair Expert. Not sure who that is, but I'm going to Google it right after I finish doing this promo. If you want to really kind of dive in and learn all about some awesome comedians, Behind the Bits is where you should go. It's a really, really popular destination for all your favorite comedians, and maybe some you never heard of, but it's a great way to be introduced to rising talent. So definitely check out Behind the Bits podcast. You will not be disappointed. You can find them on the web at thebtbpc.com or, Apple, Google, all your podcasts. Just search Behind the Bits. I do want to take a quick second and thank everyone for their support of our sponsors. When you support the sponsors, you're supporting us here at Classic Conversations, and that's how we keep the lights on. I know I usually save my TV binge-watching suggestions for Crossing the Streams, but I do want to do a shout-out to The Orville, now on Hulu, Season 1, Season 2, and the new season, New Horizons, all streaming. Definitely check this out. It's one of the best science fiction shows on now, nay, ever. You're going to love it. From the mind of Seth MacFarlane, it's brilliant. It really is. And it keeps getting better. So you can imagine when I reached out to one of the stars, Peter Macon, and he said he would love to come on the show, I got really, really excited. So I talked to Peter about the Orville, of course, and landing the role of Bortus and winning his Emmy and a ton of other fun stuff that I'm going to share with you right now. Enjoy. All right, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce you to my next guest, actor, Emmy Award winner, currently starring on one of my favorite shows, The Orville, as Lieutenant Commander Bortus. Welcome to the show, Peter Macon. Hey!
You will be silent. Hey.
That is the greatest line from the almost karaoke moment
Yeah.
from Orville. I found like a petition online.
Yeah. There's some stuff out there. Which one are you talking about? The petition
to get you to sing. They want to hear Bortus sing.
Just hang on. I'm not, just hang on. Yeah,
I'm hanging on. Just, it's just fun the stuff you can find when you start digging around. It's like there was a change.org petition to try and get Seth's attention to work that.
Well, none of that goes unnoticed. So I'll just say that. Yeah, you'll see.
I can't wait to. It's funny to be able to actually see you, only because so ingrained the Bortus character in my head. Have you had times where people don't realize it's you? Like you're walking around, like even just people you work with?
Oh, dude, like early on, because of the prosthetics, take a couple hours to get into. So I'm there often before crew is there, right? So I get there and I'm at Crafty and I'm getting some eggs or oatmeal or whatever. And people are like, who the hell is this guy? And then I open my mouth and like, oh, wow, you're Bortus. I never know what you look like. Yeah. So yeah, that happened. Even the shooting season 3, I'd be around for a costume fitting or something and just be walking around and I say something and be like, oh my God, it's you. I'm not all the time. So yeah, they kept me pretty much under wraps. No, but it was a funny thing. It's a funny thing. I mean, I was even in a Target one time with my kids, this AT&T representative selling AT&T, whatever, in the electronics section at Target, started talking to her and I, told her my name and she's like, oh my God, you're Bortus? I'm like, whoa, that's impressive. Actually, she knew me by my name, which was interesting. But I've been in the grocery store and people were like, oh my God, Bortus? Brian Cantaloupe? No. But yeah, no, that goes with the territory of having your big old mug plastered all over the place, but nobody knows what I look like.
Does the recognition come from hearing you say something and then they turn and then they kind of put it together?
Yeah, I kind of have a big voice. So when I'm like, how much is this toothpaste? They're like, oh my God, what's going on? So yeah. And that's fun. It's fun because I enjoy my anonymity, and it's also really interesting how my cover is blown in the most random, like the DMV or, like people were like, I recognize your voice. So yeah, it's fun. It didn't make any sense when I was 15 years old, but I've grown into it now.
You've grown into your voice.
Yeah.
I had to grow into my ears. You can't see them because I got my headphones on, but
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Did they get any better in season 3, New Horizons, with the time it takes to put on the makeup and stuff? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, and that is much to the credit of KMBFX. Shout out to Howard Berger, KMBFX, Garrett Immel, Tammy Lane, makeup artists who, it was a lot like creating a sculpture every day, like the same sculpture every day. And at the beginning, when we were first figuring it out, it took about 4 hours to get everything right and fitted and painted. And then by the end, we got it put down to like 90 minutes. But that's me also helping them, knowing when I could talk, knowing when I could pick up my phone, knowing when I could fall asleep, which is every time. Because I'm in there at 5 a.m, after a late shoot and have to come back. And it was, like I there's a point where if I start nodding off, they'll put the pillow behind my head and so they have a steady canvas, to work on. But it became a flow, man. And it became like, I know I should flare my nostrils when they're putting this part of the application on so that the glue will stick better, and hold my nostrils flared for 5 seconds so the glue will set. And then I can let my nostrils unflare so that like later on, when it gets hot or like, the makeup starts to get hot, that piece of adhesion won't come undone because I gave the time. I mean, it's really technical stuff, and it was fun to learn how to help them apply the makeup. So, it was a learning curve for all of us. But yeah, I mean, I would get the physical pieces on, get them set, And then, they spent about a third of the time getting the applications on. It was like 3 different pieces. And then the rest of the time sort of finessing and painting. And so when they get into the finessing and painting, that's when I can nod out and go to sleep. It really is what happens to you when you fall asleep in a makeup trailer. Be warned, because you might come out looking like unrecognizable.
Does that help you slip into character? Like more like because you're like,
absolutely. And what was it? What movie was that? Was it David? It was Willem Dafoe in, I want to say, a David Lynch movie, where he played like he had like these prosthetic teeth, and he had like, anyway. Once you get in, once the makeup goes on, and it's again much to the credit of how well this makeup was designed. How well the makeup was designed for me specifically. I look at myself in the mirror and I don't recognize myself at all. There are limitations with, how much I can rotate my neck, I can turn my head and stuff around. And so that sets physicality just off rip, and so, the no neck turn, it's like, I always pictured if Eeyore and Sam the Eagle had a love child, it would be Bortus, what I mean? Because, Sam the Eagle, he's very, he's very,
right.
And Eeyore is just, in his disposition. But the makeup definitely helped to define the physicality of the person, which, and once your physicality is sort of sketched out, you can kind of map out how this person goes, what their posture is like, and what their disposition is, if that makes any sense. So yeah, it was extremely helpful. And that's what made it so much fun, is to have all of that makeup on. It was not fun when it was hot. And there was one time a bunch of ants crawled into my head and got sealed inside my head, and that was torture. But for the most part, it was great fun. And it was fun to walk around and forget that I had it on, right? So I, on lunch break, could just take a walk around the lot, just to get some exercise and fresh air. And I'm like, why do people, oh, that's right. That's right, I have this. I'm just, talking on my phone or talking to my kids on FaceTime. And I'm like, why is people staring at me? Like, oh, that's right, I have this makeup on. And it's weird. Yeah, this is fun. I love that stuff too. Like Halloween, I've always loved costumes and, that kind of stuff. So it made for great hijinks. And then you go on and like, the whole episode where I wanted a mustache, like Bortus wants a mustache, and you just add that on top of everything else. Then it's like, I'm just having a good time, doing my best Tom Selleck or my best Burt Reynolds, just really kind of just having a laugh with it.
It was funny you say that. I was gonna say I once went as Tom Selleck. He's a Detroit guy, right? So I'm from and so I had my whole Tom Selleck. I ended up looking more like really a 70s porn star with the mustache.
Hey, okay, not too far off the mark.
But I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, I can't even imagine like having a full prosthetic. I couldn't handle the mustache. I couldn't even you couldn't even move. Yeah. Because it would like fly off. It's like,
right.
Without having that. Right. That's a really funny episode, by the way.
Yeah, no, it was good fun. It was good fun. Those big, thick mustaches are always fun, especially on an alien 500 years in the future.
Yes.
It'll always be funny. It's universally funny.
Oh, yeah. It was fun. It was actually funny in season 3. They called it back.
Yeah. Yeah, just last night's episode with the beer foam.
Right. Yeah.
It was fun. Like, which wasn't beer foam, by the way, but that's another story. But yeah, like one time for Halloween, like I used to work up at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival in Ashland, Oregon. And for those of you who don't know, it's like the oldest Shakespeare festival in the Western Hemisphere. And it's like they had a great makeup department, but for Halloween in the daytime, I would just wear a tracksuit and some glasses and a wig and a big thick mustache. And just like, it was the creepiest, most wonderful, perfect costume. Very, very little, and it was just so great just to be nonchalant and casual and just go in places and, buy a carton of milk and, like it changes the meaning of like, why is he buying this milk?
I used to work at Little Caesars Pizza headquarters, and every now and then I got to dress up as the mascot for events, and I'd be in the costume. I basically won the job because I was just tall enough, and but it was so fun when people don't know it's you, and you can go around and you can engage with people. That's the closest I've ever come to kind of that. But I used to love Halloween also, dressing up and
we'll do.
So you mentioned the play. You have a lot of theater background.
Yeah.
Do you miss the theater? Do you go back to the theater occasionally? I know the Orville's a hot gig, but
no. I do miss the theater. I haven't done a play since I want to say 2016. I had the opportunity to do a lot of Shakespeare, and like the last play I did was in Dublin at the National Theatre of Ireland. And we did a production of Othello there, and I definitely miss I miss the boards a lot. I miss being on stage. The electric connectivity, the live, it's happening right then. It's there. There's people in the audience. Sometimes like you just got to change with the changes, and it's great. It's a great proving ground, I think, for actors. I mean, ideally I would do at least one play a year because I think it's just so incredibly important. And then I grew up in the theater, and it's just it's unlike any other experience that you will have as an actor. The preparation and then the go, like 8:00 curtain on, like, you get that 7:30, half an hour. And that's when like it's coming, and I had to have rituals, backstage rituals and things that I would do, like I think the best time I had on stage to date would be playing Macbeth at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And we did 150 performances. So we ran from, I think, February to late October, early November. And, there's a bunch of fights, but there's a huge fight scene in it. And it's a dance. And like the guy who's playing Macduff, shout out to Kevin Kennerly, is built like a bulldog, so he's probably like 6 inches shorter than I am, but his neck was probably 3 inches wider than mine. But so it made for a great dynamic for a fight because, I'm 6 feet tall and fairly fit, and this guy was 5'6" and just fit too, but just thick. So his center of gravity is lower. And so the fight choreography was fantastic because in 2 different dynamically opposed bodies. And we did that 150 times, and playing that role, which is my favorite. It's my favorite Shakespeare play in the canon. It's just so much fun. After like 75 performances, 60 performances, it's muscle memory, and and the play even opens up more. I mean, it's almost like like the Russian school of, and I'm speaking generically, but Russian school of theater is like you rehearse 9 months for, you're just in it and in it and in it. And so playing Bortus for 5 years so far is sort of akin to that, where you're just like living in the skin of this character for that long, and you just find new discovery, new dimensionality. But yeah, I definitely miss the stage just because it's just so exciting, and it's where that's where I fell in love with being an actor came from. It's watching people on stage.
Sure, it's a whole different vibe. I do stand-up comedy, so it's
you get it. Yeah, you know what it is. Yeah, I mean, I've done some stand-up too, and like that's I mean, yeah. I mean, that's like, when you're out there by yourself and it's you in the audience, and it could go horribly, horribly wrong.
All the best stories are the ones that went horribly, horribly wrong. Nobody wants to hear the stories when it went amazing.
No, that's just boring, man. But when you bomb, it's like, that's the good stuff.
That is the good stuff. Absolutely. Yeah, but there's that energy where you don't know what's about to happen. You don't know how they're going to react, even though you've done this time and hundreds, if not, and it's just like, it's that thrill every single time.
Because it's different because you have different sets of different audience, different vibration going on. Someone's cell phone rings. I remember I was doing a production of To Kill a Mockingbird. And, and it's a fairly stilted sort of play, like the second act, that's just in the courtroom, and you're just, it's playing Tom, and I'm on the witness stand, and it's a very vulnerable moment. And, I'm in the audience of 700 people, and like this, clearly an old person's phone rang because, it was the whole, like, you're trying to find out. First it just rang. It's like, it's not my phone. I'm not, nope. And then, it rang again, and then it rang again. And like, you can hear the frustration in this poor person whose children probably gave them that phone to keep them safe or whatever, to make sure they're okay. But, didn't give them a tutorial about how to turn it off in the theater, and it's just ringing. And you just have to, just sort of wait and be in it. And I was like, well, there's no way, and this is while it's happening. I'm like, there's no way that any information that comes out of my mouth as this character is going to land on the audience, because everyone's listening to the phone. So we got and the cacophony of sounds trying to stifle the phone and stuff like that. So I just waited. I just stopped talking, and it seemed like it was like 10 minutes, but it was actually probably less than a minute. But and then once the phone went silent and it started again, the audience erupted in applause. As like this mutual acknowledgement of like, yeah, that was an event that happened, that was awful, and it was awkward, but it was also like you handled it. Because I've barked at people on stage. Like, we're doing another show And it was the kind of play where you could I just started yelling at the audience, fucking phone off, or what you would just like, people are like, oh, but it's like you forget. I mean, and I think especially now, since COVID, it's like we're so, I don't know, insularized, right? We're so like talking to our computers and having meetings and Zoom talks and stuff like that. We're so desensitized already. Well, we were already desensitized because of, I think, streaming and cell phones, people watching movies on phones, people not really going to movie theaters. I've thrown a burrito at somebody in a movie theater. So like they were like, they answered their phone in the middle of this movie, and I'm just like, just knee jerk. And I was enjoying that burrito, and it was just this reaction of this, like I just threw the burrito over in their direction because they were, talking on the phone in the movie theater. So like it's just I'm just kind of built that way, and it's not always the best example of patience and coexistence to teach my children, but I'm just kind of wired that way for the sanctity of the the event of, like, you go to a movie, it's an event, right? I want quiet. I don't want to, don't ask me any questions. I want to watch every frame. Like when I go to a play, I turn my phone off just because I'm just that kind of guy that like, oh, I didn't know my phone did that when it was still powered off. So I just turn it off. Sometimes I leave the phone in the car. You know what I mean? Just because I just don't, because it's a really sacred kind of, like, I feel like a little kid and like someone sitting down and tell me a story around a campfire, and I just don't want to miss any amount of, like, any minutia, any nothing. So yeah, I miss it. I miss that space because it's electrifying and it's gratifying, and often I had no idea what happened. You know what I mean? Like, people are like, you were so great, you did this, that, and this. And I was like, I don't remember because I was just in it. You know what I mean?
Actually, I know exactly what you mean. If someone were to say, if I were to do 30 minutes of comedy and get off stage and someone says, what did you just do? I'm like, I don't know. Did you remember that joke? I'm like, that's why I record everything I do, because
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it was the moment. And then it was almost like, it's almost like an out of body experience.
It is. You're a conduit. You're just channeling. And I watch a lot of stand up too, and you just watch people. They have the jokes. Everything's written. They've done them before, but it's about transition and how they get there, and their the flow of your frame of your consciousnesses, and how what you're thinking about, what you're reacting to, and it's all relatable, right? You know what I mean? Like, I was watching a stand up comic. I forget who it was, but he was talking about the North Korean army or military and how they high step when they march. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he's like, what would happen if that guy was in the hood? And he'd be like, here comes Steppin' Larry. And he was like stepping like that, right? And he was walking, right? It was incredibly funny. And this is a bit that I was watching at probably like 4:00 in the morning with my friend. She was visiting, and we really funny together, same sense of humor and stuff. And so she came to the matinee of Macbeth, and at one point just didn't even think about it. But there was one point I was walking across the stage like Steppin' Larry, like walking across the stage like the North Korean military, just like, and it was only funny to her because like it made sense because she knew exactly what, but it fit into the realm of the character because Macbeth is losing his cookies and he's going nuts. But it was like, I just love incorporating all of that live synergy. It's while it's happening and then it's over. Long story short, I miss being on stage.
Peter, I have a question for you. I want to go a little deeper on one thing. Did the theater itself sell burritos, or did you bring a burrito to the theater?
I have been known to I don't agree with snack prices at the movie theater. And it happened I was catching this movie on my lunch break from something. And there's just nothing like, sneaking food into the theater. And they did not sell burritos. I got it from a taqueria and then I think I was in San Francisco, and I jumped on the train, and it was wrapped up in tin foil. It was like pinto beans and carnitas. I'm hungry right now. So
I'm hungry too. So that's why I was just curious. I was just curious if you were packing your own burrito.
I'm glad you took the deep dive on that one. Like that's good.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no, man. I've smuggled ice cream into theaters. Like, this is nothing. Like, and that comes from my mom, man. Back in the day, she'd take us to the movies, and she's like, "Yeah, the prices for the popcorn are way too high." So she would literally like make all this popcorn and put it, in the giant mom purse. And like, we'd go on in the movie theater and like just take some, pass it down, take some, pass it down. That's how movie theaters make their money. It's like on the snacks. I don't want to die. I don't want to buy $14 popcorn. I'm sorry. I won't do it. Just on principle. I won't do it.
I'm with you 100%. We have been known. You got to time it right with the popcorn, because otherwise you walk in, it can't still have that popcorn smell.
No, that's where you're wrong. Because once you walk into the movie theater, That's all you smell anyway, right? You know what I mean? Like you walk into a movie theater, you're like, I am not going to buy any popcorn. I am not going to buy any popcorn. I am not going to buy any popcorn. You open the door, that popcorn smacks you in the face, that smell, you're like, and next thing you know, you're in the line. Yeah, I'll take a tub.
I know, but you try to be an incognito, like when you're bringing in the contraband, Twizzlers and all that kind of stuff. It's like, because popcorn's like, you're like, oh, you go in the winter, it's easy, right? Because you could just.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You can't go in like in a Speedo and be like, well, have a condition. You know what I mean? So, no, pick your battles. But I'm just saying, like, people that work at movie theaters don't care. They're not paying attention. Like, I mean, what was it? Shortcuts? It was a 3-hour long movie. You know that movie with Tom Cruise and like, all like.
Yeah.
I mean, a friend of mine and I bought in like, what do you call those things? The bottle of wine that, like, not the liter, but I forget what it's called. The big, anyway, it was a long movie. And 2 hours in, we're just pulling from the bottle like it's lemonade. And then we set the bottle down. And it's a late show. I think the movie started at like 9. No one's there. There's like 12 people in the movie theater, right? And like I think the bottle got kicked and it just rolled down.
Oh, that is fun.
Shit, I mean, it was man, it's a good time. I mean, I miss going to the movie theater too. But nowadays, we go and see Shrek and stuff like that because I have children. But I'm just saying, there's a way to do do And
yeah, it sounds like going to the movies with you, Peter, would be quite a joy.
It's a good time.
When I'm in LA, I'm giving you a call. All right, so Emmy Award winner.
Yeah.
That must have been super cool for animated Tales of the World as narrator. So you grew into your voice and then it won you an Emmy.
Yeah, that was super surreal, dude, because I was in my second year of grad school. And well, it was before my second year of grad school. Like I was in between my first and second year of grad school. Like I went and traveled and I had no money, but I had no business doing it, but I did anyway. I went to Amsterdam and then I went to Ibiza and, you can pretty much, that writes itself. But, and then you come back and I got this call for this job that I had to turn down earlier years ago because I had moved from San Francisco to New York. And when I lived in San Francisco, I got offered this job, but it was non-union, right? So my agents at the time were like, no, you can't do it. But even though it was this incredible project about John Henry that I folklore and I loved. And, it was for the part of John Henry. And I was like, man, I really would love to do this to get my voiceover career started. But they were like, no, you can't do it. It's non-union. And so I just let it go. So then cut to like a year and a half later, I went to Spain, came back from Spain, had no money. And I was in New York, and this is like September 9th, 2001, and got a call on my cell phone, which I could barely afford to have at the time. And they're like, yeah, well, we shot the movie, or we shot the animation, we filmed everything. And the animator, this guy's name was Andrei Zalutikon. He was a Russian, very impressionistic animation. And they said that we don't think that the American audiences are going to be able to understand the story without, or foreign audiences will understand the story without a narration. So they added this narration to it. They're like, would you be willing to come in and record the narration for it? And I was dead broke. And I'm like, I didn't have an agent at the time, a voiceover agent. I was probably in arrears in my union dues. I was probably kicked out of the union at the time. And I'm like, hell yes, I'll do it. I think I made like $350. I recorded it in like 2 hours the next day. And after the call, and then the next day I jumped on a train and went back left New York. And then 9/11 happened, like literally, like it was like on the train and it was happening. So it was sort of fortuitous that I got out of there, but I was like right downtown recording it in New York. Anyway, so cut to then another year and I'm getting up, it's like 7 in the morning. And I get a call from the registrar's office saying that I had won an award. And I thought it was like my friends pranking me, before I'm going to clown class, which was, horrifying class for 2 years, the most humiliating and wonderful series of classes I've taken in my career. Just devastating. But so I thought they were playing a joke on me. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever. So I go to call the registrar's office and like, you want an Emmy? I'm like, what? For what? What have I done? That's like, I've been in school for, and they're like, well, this, animated Tales of the World, HBO. And I was like, oh, that thing? It's like, you can win awards for. And so it wasn't a primetime Emmy. It was like a creative Emmy, which is still an Emmy. And so they flew me out to LA from New Haven and I got the award and stayed in the Peninsula Hotel and got this thing. They don't give you a box to carry it and they either ship it to you or you take it on your own. And so I'm going through the airport and like this little Filipino dude, the security guard, he's like very sharp. He's like pointing to the lightning bolt wings on it. And he's like, I don't know if I'm going to let you take this on the plane. I'm like, do you want me to check my Emmy? Like, how am I supposed to do this? Like, you know, and so then the whole time on the plane, people are like, what'd you win it for? What'd you win it for? And they're, you know, expecting, you know, I don't know, Days of Our Lives or whatever the hell. And I'm like, yeah, it's the animated Tales of the World. It's an animated cartoon that I narrated. And they're like, immediately lose interest as soon as, you know, like, so it was bittersweet, but it was great. Yeah, that was 20 years ago, for crying out loud. But yeah, that happened. And then my friends just came over. Well, some friends of my wife, let me be clear, came over. It was like, is that a Grammy? And I was like, oh God, you know, so super glamorous award to win. But I mean, it was amazing and sort of unprecedented to win an award like that while still in grad school. But I had a life before grad school. I was working professionally for like 13 years. So maybe it wasn't that big of a deal, but.
No, it's a huge deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. And
yeah, no,
an Emmy's an Emmy, you know what I mean? So.
Definitely dresses up the old defunct fireplace that it's sitting on right now. So,
that's awesome. That's awesome. So, all right. So talk to me about like just getting the role of Bortus, you know, auditioning for Seth MacFarlane. And then, because you parlayed that too, they had you on Family Guy. You were on a couple episodes of Family Guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was. I think it was. You know, just sort of being in the camp of Fuzzy Door. You know, like because that came less than a year ago. No, that's not true. It came like a year and a half ago. But yeah, Seth just called and asked me. He's like, hey, because the role of Peter's boss has been voiced. You know, I think Bryan Cranston did it, and Carrie Fisher was the last. Was his last boss. And I think, but Carrie Fisher, when she passed away, like, you know, rest in peace, Carrie Fisher, but like, he just called and it was like, hey, like, and I think this relates to your question in that, like, they saw, I think probably like, he said like 100 people for Bortus, and they looked in New York and they looked in London, they looked in, you know, wherever the hell they looked. And I want to say Seth is a really great guy. He's a really great guy to work with, work for. You know, I respect him as an artist. I respect him as like, you know, like a boss, because he's very specific. He works harder than anybody that I've ever seen. And I think that my voice helped, obviously, a great deal to get me this role. And it was like, you know, I had a job already, right? I had this job, you know, because I was in LA, struggling, brand new baby. And I had this job that was supposed to shoot in Botswana, right? This is 2017. Right. So this is, you know, COVID is, you know, so people are still doing stuff like this and going to Botswana to shoot movies. But it was for an Amazon series based off of this novel that in hindsight never saw the light of day. But I was like, no, I have a job. I don't want to spoil this. And my manager was like, no, you got to audition for this. And I'm like, no, I got a job. She's like, no, this is Seth MacFarlane. This is going to be a big thing. I'm like, if I mess around and lose this job that I already have, trying to get this other job, I'm going to be so mad. She's like, trust me, this will be worth it. Trusting, like I've had the same manager for, I think, 19 years. So she's a friend. So I trust her judgment. So I was like, okay, you know, and it was like the first, you know, I'd been guest star. I'd been like quasi reoccurring on a couple of shows, but this was for a series regular. So, you know, there was a whole, you know, and I had tested for series regulars stuff before. And it's really kind of heartbreaking to get to that stage of it. And it comes down between you and 3 or 4 other actors. And you get that far and you don't get it. And it had just happened to me with this other show. And so I was kind of butthurt about it. And I was like, I don't want to go through this. But she's like, it'll be worth it. If you get it, it'll be a life-changing, you know, game-changing experience. Not just monetarily, but just creatively, right? And so I read the breakdown, and it was like they had to describe Bortus as like you would describe the Thing from Fantastic Four. You know what I mean? Just kind of a big rock built. They didn't really give much to go on, which I think was great because because I got the job. That's why it's great. Like, you know, I'll be bitching and complaining about it otherwise. Like, what kind of information is this? It's not enough information. So I read, and that was kind of that. And then a couple of days later, you know, like it was actually a week later. You know, and I'm on pins and needles, and I remember because like we had to sort of stall the Botswana job, you know, and not lose it if I didn't get the Orville. And so then they called me for a test, and Seth was there, right? And Seth, I don't know if anybody, you know, Seth, you see Seth, you know, when he's like hosting or singing concerts or whatever, and he's all done up. But real Seth, like everyday regular Seth, has a baseball cap on that has quahog on it. and these really thick glasses. You wouldn't even know that it was him. He's just sort of and he's just like not a A-type big personality kind of person. He's just kind of he's like the drummer, right? He's like back in the cut. And I was producers in the room, and I did the scene, and I tried, and this is what's so great, and this is relatable to how we wound up working down the road on material, is that like his whole theory is like you write something and it's written specifically for this character because it's juxtaposed with other, just think of them as like instruments. So like I'm, say, a cello, right? Bortus is like a cello, and Gordon is like a piccolo or no, he's like a clarinet, right? And then you have John Lamar, who's like a trombone. And so my point is like, so when I read it, it was a scene about Bortus goes to Ed Mercer and asks him for paternity leave because he needs to lay an egg. And that's, huge news. He's like, what, you lay eggs? And I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like, are they large? Are the eggs, are they big? And the line is, they are quite large. Yes. And I was in the audition I wanted to comment on the size of the eggs and how, if it's just for people imagining, if you're laying an egg, people are going to think, oh, it's coming out of your butt. And if it's a big, large egg, it's probably huge, really painful. And like, you're going to comment on it. And I was still trying to be smart about it, not trying to throw it all away. But he's like, no, the funny lives in if you just say it matter-of-factly. And that was the note that I got in the producer session, which was great. And then I just flipped my whole tactic and just said it flat out. And it was really funny like that. So he has an ear for the different elements and that will make something funny. And he's like, don't put a hat on a hat. Don't try to make it funny. Just say it because it's written funny. Not that he was like, don't mess up my shit. It's funny, but it's like, it's funny the way that it is because it's in an ensemble. It's an ensemble joke, right?
Right.
For the whole joke to land, everybody has to play their note, stay in their lane. So that was really, really cool to even get an adjustment in the producer session as opposed to, okay, thanks, that was great. I'll see you like that. Are people funny, whatever. And then that night I was at a party and, and I'm stressing out and I'm just like, man, I got this baby and my wife and, and we're living, I just, my family's growing and I don't feel like I support them. But I was at this party and I get a text message from Seth MacFarlane. Like, first of all, how the hell did he get my number? But I'm like, oh, he's Seth MacFarlane. He can get anybody's number. And he texted me and was like, yeah, we're so happy to have you be on board. And that's how I found out I got the job. And so he texted me personally, which was super dope. I mean, it was a life-changing experience. And after struggling for so long in theater and struggling financially, this theater, you can't pay your student loans off with that money, certainly. But it changed a lot. It changed, I was able to do a lot for my family and for my debt, which has gone right back up. But that's what it is.
Right. Now you bring Burritos to the theater because you choose to, not because
now it's supposed to stealing the burrito and then sneaking into the movie theater on an artist's salary. Still need to be entertained.
It's cool that he texted you. It kind of shows like how he wanted to create that bond right away. It's interesting when you saying that he looked at so many people for Bortus because your character is one that he uses a lot. He tells a lot of stories and covers a lot of very serious topics in the Orville. And he uses your character for a lot of that, or the whole Moclan.
I'm kind of the heavy.
You're kind of heavy, but then balancing your approach to it is like About a Girl. That episode, it's brilliant, and it's so you guys male. For those of you who don't watch the Orville,
why are you listening? No kidding.
Well, because we want them to. We're going to convert. We're going to convert, right? So maybe they missed the note that it's on Hulu now, and so
that's probably it. Yeah.
But it's an all male species, and Clyden and Bortus, played by Peter, have a female child, which is considered an illness, basically.
A blight on the Moclan society.
Right. So and just dealing with that, and that becomes a thread, right? I mean, it kind of takes through, there's Aftermath in the next episode, Sanctuary continues that story in season 2 with a planet with all the female Moclans that escaped. But it's interesting too, like, because your character is so progressive, your mate, Clyden, is of old school. It resonates now, I think, more than ever with a lot of relationships are coming down to, having to deal with loving the person you love and are close with, having a completely different ideology as you and dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, and it speaks again, this is great writing because what that does is, it's easy to vilify Clyden, right? Because, I mean, okay, let me back up. If you're writing a show about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different species of organisms, right? And the planetary union is, for all intents and purposes, a human construct. It's a human collection. It's a human barometer of morality. It's based in that, right? And so it's easy to vilify Clyden, but Clyden, as we know, was born female, right?
Right.
So, I mean, he was an anomaly. So he has he has personal skin in this fight of like what his life was like being born female, growing up in an all-male world. And so not only that, but he's just 100% Moclan. You know what I mean? So we can say as human beings from the planet Earth that it's wrong for someone to be born an anomaly. But like Clyden even asked Dr. Finn, and if your child is born with 3 legs or something like that, would you back in the day, like Greeks, when people in societies, even now, like if you're born with Down syndrome, or if you're born with, whatever defects or like physical defects, like Greek mythology they were really big on throwing like infants out. Look at Oedipus. He was thrown out into the cold. Anyway, my point is easy to look at Clyden as the bad guy, but he's really just being 100% true to what his world view because of where he grew up and what his world is. And then you look at Bortus being progressive. So what does that mean to be a progressive Moclan? Well, that means you're alienated from the whole world that you come from. So like there's conflict on both sides, which makes for great storytelling, great writing. And it's a lot of layers to play for the actor. And I think that it presents itself as complex as it should be. It's not a 2-dimensional argument. You know what I mean? It's very personal, it's very gray, right? And I feel like people watching the show, from the feedback that I got early on, people watching the show thought that it was going to be a big old yuck fest and just jokes and like Family Guy in space until that episode when they go to court and have to go to Moclan to fight the system of saying, to fight for gender reassignment, and then he loses, right? So you're like, oh man, just when you thought like, oh, this is going to wrap itself up in a very sort of Western happy ending kind of way, it doesn't. But then what that did was that gave us a springboard for more story to be told. And so this season, New Horizons, there's like, it's not over. That whole storyline is not over. So I think that that's just great writing. And like, you just set yourself up, you just keep creating problems that you have to solve, but you don't really get to fully solve, but like you have to keep at it. And I think that keeps, the audience intrigued because it's just not a cut and dry, simple problem. It's messy. And the fact that Clyden and Bortus have to go to therapy, which I think is hilarious. But then you go to that episode with the porn addiction. And like, so you realize that this couple, I mean, it's bittersweet. I mean, it's funny, but it's like painful because the reason why, Bortus retreats into this, in the simulator world and like his pornographic, whatever, his retreats, he even says it, I've retreated into myself as opposed to is based out of the fundamental stance that these two mates have against what to do with their child. And so that creates this huge wedge, and that huge wedge almost kills everybody on the ship, because you get, like, he got a virus from old Unc, gave him some dirty porn and like almost destroyed the ship. But that's what I'm saying. It all ties together. And that's what's so great, because so much like life, right? One decision you make can have multiple, like it's choose your own adventure kind of thing. You can have so many different results from very simple crossroads.
Oh, it's amazing. It's like in About a Girl, when Lamar and Malloy, Scott and Jay Lee, sit you down to watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed
Reindeer. Yeah.
Right. And then you say later, I have witnessed events that have opened my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a brilliant thing. And then when you give him the Topa, your son, I was going to, at the end, you give him a Rudolph. I was going to say, none of these they don't have happy endings. They have real endings. Like, they don't, which I think is what's one of the great things about the show. So in About a Girl, he does have the gender reassignment. In Primal, the episode that dealt with the porn addiction that you mentioned, right? At the end, one of the consequences is, though you're a hero saving 30 people on a planet that's being destroyed by a sun, 45 people died.
Yeah.
Wasn't full happy.
Oh, we saved everyone. No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, and I think that's, I mean, I don't want to see that because that's not real. You know what I mean? I want to see, when you watch a tragedy, the most tragic part about being witness to a tragedy is when the person is fighting against the tragedy and they still lose. You know what I mean? I think that lands and that resonates because it's about the spirit of trying to win. Even if you don't win, you try to win. And I feel like that lands with us. That gives us inspiration to fight, to continue to try to make the world better, even if you lose. Like, no one wants to watch no one wants to watch 4 hours of Hamlet where Hamlet's like doomed the whole time. And, like you want to watch him try to win. And that's what hurts the most. And, like, I think that's what's great about this show is that it's not trying to be tidy like that. It's keeping the mirror up to our face, because then you don't get to be so apathetic. You don't get to be like, oh, they fixed it all in the future. Space is great. Fact of the matter is, a lot of people are going to die horribly going to Mars, trying to get the money, you know what I mean? And that's just real. Like a lot of people have died horribly in the pursuit of space chase, and a lot of people die horribly senselessly, like for no reason. That's real. But there's a lot of beauty and there's a lot of great things in life. But let us not pretend that life doesn't have like the with the balance. You know what I mean? It's the age old, Lucifer and Christ. Like the whole, you can't have one without the other.
Exactly. There's something about it that makes you want to keep watching because it doesn't wrap up. It's not the Love Boat. It doesn't wrap up tidy at the end and everyone.
As much as I love the Love Boat, don't get me wrong.
No disrespect to the Love Boat.
No disrespect to the Love Boat, which I really love.
I know we're running out of time, but I did want to bring up one thing real quick. I know in the New Horizons season 3, episode 4 that just came out.
Yeah.
Your character maybe wasn't one of the main characters in this particular episode. You did have one of the greatest cut-to scenes.
I wonder
ever.
if I saw it
where Scott Grimes is flipping that
in the helix
and the helix, and they cut to you, and you're trying not to puke.
Yeah,
it was so subtle, so fast, but it was just like it goes to like how well you've even that much prosthetics and everything like that. You've kind of embodied this character, and you can really everything comes through. You don't look at some characters. Okay, press. It seems a little more, but like. But yours, it's just like,
wow.
It's just so cool. So anyway.
Thank you for mentioning that, because I watched it last night and I had forgotten about it. And I remember when we were shooting it, like I thought about it a lot, because it's like you said, it's very fast and happens very quick in the midst of all this chaos. And like, I understood what the editor was, Tom Constantino, shout out to Tom, trying to achieve with that little break moment. Cause it's like, you want to keep, like, again, it's like that trying to achieve that balance of comedy and drama. And like, I didn't want to overdo it. I didn't want to underdo it. It was like one of those things. And I only had like a couple of takes, a couple of shots at it. I think I did it like 3 different ways, but like they were still super efficient in like, cause I knew that it was just like one moment, cut to, flash away, cut away. I watched that last night and I was like, I laughed out loud. I was like, oh, that's right.
It was perfect. It was just it was like so subtle, so perfect. It was everything.
Yeah.
The 9 to 5 battle scene where they played Dolly Parton was another one where I was just like, damn, this is brilliant. How does he even come up with this stuff?
I know, man. Just take a walk in Seth's mind and just you wait. I hope that we can have another chat after everything has aired, because all of the things you're touching on, seeds get planted and it'll make like the Dolly Parton, like who has a 6-minute space battle with Dolly Parton 9 to 5 is the soundtrack. That's just like, that's the end of like the so diametrically opposed. Like that's some good shit. Right? I mean, that's like, it doesn't get any better than that. Like where you just have like the juxtaposition of those two things. that's freaking Seth's mind, man. I mean, and like, I'd be so lucky. We're so lucky to have that kind of mind operating out there. Like, like the stuff he's doing with Ted right now and like Family Guy, American Dad. It's just like that contribution to the zeitgeist of what's happening. We are very, very fortunate to have. He's such a smarty pants. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's just so fun. And talking about this right now, I really miss working on the show. So I hope that there's more to come. But yeah, just because it was just in the pocket, in that zone. Yeah, you just wait. I hope that we can have a chat when all is said and done. Because then everything, we can talk about everything. You know what I mean? Because there's stuff I can't talk about, obviously, and don't want to spoil or get sued. But yeah, it'd be fun to have a chat.
Yeah, we'll do that. Absolutely. Well, I know you got to go. I know you got stuff to do, but I thank you for spending so much time with me. It was.
Yeah, man. And thank you for having me. And for sure, let's circle back, because I feel like this is like, this will be a great, for people who are listening, a great way to bookend everything that we're talking about, unless Putin is, no, let's not make that joke. That's not funny. Stop myself. If barring any cataclysmic events, let us reconvene down the road after everything is aired, and then we can really, really, really talk about everything. Because I think that'd be a great treat for people who are listening to get the bookend.
Absolutely. Give me a Cholula and then a Chaluga, and we'll be out of here.
Chaluga. That sounds like a loogie.
That when you were urinating. That's
Chaloja?
Oh, Chaloja. Give me a Chaloja.
What if I said Chaluga? Cut. Sorry. It's Jaloja. Okay, sorry. Yeah. I will give you you will be silent is what you get from that, from pronouncing it wrong.
That's right. I'm so nervous.
Get a corner piece of cake. We'll call it square.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
Right,
I really appreciate you. Thanks.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. How amazing was Peter Macon? And yes, I know I screwed up and I said the Moclan word wrong right to Peter. You can't see my face because it's audio, but it went all red. I was so excited, but I can't pronounce Moclan. It's just one of those things. I can't trill an R either. So, I tried, right? And that's really what it's all about. So yes, I was embarrassed, but hey, life happens. It was still an amazing conversation just because I blew it at literally the last second. Hey, that's life. You got to own it. Anyway, Peter Macon, how amazing was that? Great stories. He's so amazing as Lieutenant Commander Bortus. The shows that have aired since the interview just showcase his amazingness and the show's amazingness even more. No spoilers here. Check out Peter on the Orville. All right. Well, with the interview over, that can only mean one thing. That's right. It's time for another trending hashtag from the family of hashtags at hashtag Roundup. Follow us on Twitter at hashtag Roundup. Download the free, always free hashtag Roundup app at the iTunes App Store or Google Play Store. Tweet along with us, and one day one of your tweets may show up on a future episode of Classic Conversations. Fame and fortune await you. Today's hashtag, inspired by my guest and his amazing role on the sci-fi show The Orville. We have hashtag Sci-Fi Dad Jokes, brought to us by Sci-Fi Tags, a weekly game on hashtag Roundup. Take a dad joke and give it a science fiction spin, and you get hashtag Sci-Fi Dad Jokes. Here's some hilarious ones. What's the most popular sci-fi song in 2001? You Can Call Me Hal. Okay, we get it. It's a dad joke. Stand down. What is Han Solo's favorite type of granola bar? Chewy. All right, this is going to take forever. We get it. They're dad jokes. What are glasses called on planet Vulcan? Spoctacles. Why did Spock go mining for gold? He wanted to live long and prospect. Drums and crickets? Now you're just being mean. Tusken Raider? I hardly knew her. If the Silver Surfer and Iron Man team up, they'd be alloys. Darth Vader is the worst dad. Hands down. What do the Enterprise and toilet paper have in common? They both circle Uranus and look for Klingons. Oh, the sound effects are back. All right. I hope you're enjoying these hashtag sci-fi dad jokes because they're the daddy-ish. Daddy-licious? Most daddy? All right, here's some more. Obi-Wan Kenobi opened a dispensary called The High Ground. Our final hashtag sci-fi dad joke. With great power comes great electricity bill. All right, I kind of feel like you were mocking me there. All right, we're done. No more dad jokes. Love the hashtag. Got to move away from the dad jokes, though. All right. Well, with the hashtag game over and the interview over, it can only mean one thing. Oh my goodness, episode 144 has come to a close. Can you believe it? All the fun we were having, boom, it's over. But don't worry, we got more episodes coming. And if you're not caught up, you got plenty you can do. I want to thank my special guest, Peter Macon. And of course, I want to thank all of you for coming back week after week. It means the world to me. And I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Classic Conversations. If you like what you heard, don't be shy and give us a follow on your favorite podcast app. Also, why not go ahead and tell all your friends about the show? You strike us as the kind of person that people listen to. Thanks in advance for spreading the word, and we'll catch you next time on Classic Conversations.